know if that's being removed from the champion pools, or we're still going to see it today.
Right, I'm not expecting it so much in today's game, although Gamers 2 as a team play around Perks so often, especially now that Kikis is in. Perks has one of the highest KDAs in the league. Really just only, I believe it's Cobby, has a higher KDA. Kyrie had a higher KDA, being the first rank, but that was before yesterday's series of games, so not exactly changed.
But yeah, we do have some banned champions. So Morgana, Evelyn, and Victor come out from Gamers 2. Shen, Alistair so far from MOUs. The Victor, interesting ban, but again, both of these mid laners have picked up the champion previously in the split.
Well, we saw Victor first picked in so many games yesterday. Victor is a very high priority champion. We've seen it in Challenger Series, but it's not been very successful at all.
It was yesterday, though, after picking up a couple of games. Kozku was the one manning that one.
Yes, he was indeed. Sivir has been locked in as the first pick. This has come through pretty fast here as the first pick, as we said, for Jesse. Jesse's been pretty good, to be honest, all through the split. We're kind of not expecting a standout performance from Jesse because he's always been quite a consistent and somewhat defensive player when it comes to when he was in mid, when he was in AD carry before, but certainly he's been racking up the stats, racking up good numbers throughout the entire split.
Yeah, I don't think unfair to say a middle of the table player for a lot of the time until he really hit Challenger, but more picks are coming through. Twisted Fate in from MOUs along with the Rek'Sai for jungle and quickly responded by the Elise and Nautilus from Gamers 2. Yes, indeed.
So Elise, big surprise here. Some of these picks came through really quickly. No real jungle presence other than the Evelyn getting banned out to begin with. So Elise actually doesn't even get first picked away in the Rek'Sai from Dan. So this kind of goes with what we expect out of MOUs. They don't particularly like to play a pick jungler in the sense of Elise's single target. They much prefer to get some focus, some emphasis on what they can do as a team. We've seen him play the Zac, we've seen him play Gragas a lot. So Kikis, on the other hand, is going to relish in the opportunity to play such a strong jungler like Elise right now.
I'm actually a little surprised it survived until third rotation, honestly, but with Sivir being open and how there's such a high priority on Sivir in all regions of play currently, as we had the Kalista changes, it's pretty much the first pick there. Then a response to Twisted Fate, maybe that could have been dragged on a little bit later, but Perks has also shown a tendency towards that. Again, another couple quick pickups here. Janna and Corki in from MOUs, and then the Yasuo now coming in, along with the Maokai. Only seen the Yasuo so far by Senko's in Challenger, at least.
Right, so going back to the Janna Corki right now, that is, I mean, you tie those two picks in with the Twisted Fate as well, towers are going to fall pretty quickly. As soon as MOUs get in front of them, it's a departure from what we've seen with them setting up for teamfight focus, still can tie it in all together with their last pick. Over on the other side, Perks is going to run the Yasuo into the Twisted Fate. It's a matchup that we don't see all that often in competitive play at all, but obviously with Yasuo you can block a lot of the damage that Twisted Fate is going to look to land on you. Pretty much all of his damage is projectile based, so tie that in with the Maokai. You've got a good amount of lockdown and a good amount of damage mitigation between the two of those. Just wondering how fed Perks can get.
So last pickup was the Hecarim coming in for Binsu, so actually going to put him in more of a carry role in top lane there. He has played some Hecarim before, had 2 games earlier on in the split, honestly. And then we do have our complete composition. So the Sivir with the tanky front line, lots of ways to get Yasuo into his ultimate as well.
Yes, there are. Reminder on Hecarim, Hecarim has a 100% win rate right now in the EU Challenger
Series. So don't mess it up, no.
8 and 8. Binsu is responsible for 2 of those games, as you said already. His stats pretty good on Hecarim. However, that will give them some sense of engage when it comes to setting up team fights. That will then allow Dan to go in for the secondary follow-up. I'm interested to...
Checking in on what you think throughout the game. But we are about to get into this one. Gamers 2 up against Mouse Sports. The first game of this best of 3 in the semi-finals to advance to the grand finals next week in Challenger.
So, keeping our eyes focused on this middle lane. We haven't seen Perks Yasuo in Challenger Series, but he plays a heck of a lot of Yasuo when it comes to his solo queue play. So this is the departure on a team-based play style that Gamers 2 have now consciously made. Is we're changing from a poke setup mid lane now to pretty much a full-on engage setup coming from this Yasuo, where you just catch one person out, in goes the ultimate, off they go from the map, and you just take whatever you can from there. So he's got a lot of games played on it. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, especially against a Twisted Fate, which we know the Yasuo should be fairly well off here. Pair that with the Elise early on, get that Yasuo snowballing. Seems like a recipe for disaster if you're a Mouse fan.
The mid lane is one to watch for sure. Kikis, we saw him on the Lee Sin, and the Rengar had very high impact on the early game, not just against the opposing jungler of Obvious last time we saw them, but also on the mid lane. So we'll see how that one works out. At least see the early invade coming in from MOU's, then being proactive, but because all 5 members are in the bottom side of the map, and we can see the duck. We can see Gamers 2 going into the top side of the map, responding with their own vision. Both teams went for the lane swap ward, and it doesn't look like either team is going to go for that lane swap. So Hybrid and Jesse going to go ahead and go for these Krugs, and a little bit longer to see if MOU's go for the Gromp. It looks like they're actually going to try and contest the Krugs from their current position. See if they actually do that. They're just waiting in the wings currently. And Hybrid should be starting this off. They do have the ward on that, so yeah, Cedric and Mountain will now go in and should be able to stop these Krugs from being taken. Probably the small one will go over to Gamers 2, but Mouse should be able to stop the big one. There we go.
Got it. Stopped it. Right in its tracks. But you can see that MOUs were setting up for the possibility. In fact, both teams were. The fairly standard starts with the Hecarim and the Maokai being in the jungle for the first camp or so, both getting level 2 and heading up to lane. I'm interested to see what Binsu can do in this game, because Maokai isn't exactly the highest pressure lane when it comes to what a Maokai can do against a Hecarim. So now the real point for Binsu is how much can he get ahead in this lane, and then how much can he extend that into the setup of team fights, making his presence felt elsewhere on the map. Or does Kikis turn his attention to the no-flash Hecarim and look to get Smitty J ahead?
I mean, the 1v1 in the top lane is actually fairly frustrating for the Hecarim, because he wants to spam his Q, and then Maokai is going to be like, alright, I have sat magic, and then he's just going to sustain himself. Oh, you want to charge at me? Get Q'd. So, yeah, I expect Dan maybe to, after this red, maybe try his look at top lane, but yeah, for sure, it's really reliant on how much Binsu can get in the top lanes, even running the Ignite this game away from the Smite, which we don't really see too much anymore. Sometimes see it on the Fizz and Hecarim in the top lane, but opting for the Ignite to blow up a single target.
Although this is the area of the map we're kind of expecting Kikis to end up in that bit more, around that mid lane. Get the Yasuo going, utilize the rank 1 cocoon duration increase from 1 second to 1.6, but it's an easy read here. Look, both junglers are in the mid lane. Kikis goes in.
Nice side step.
Easily read.
Yeah, and there's the win wall as well. Dan will be coming through just in case. Kikis will be backing off here, but there's no real threat of him being taken out. Sayo did charge up her God card just in case, and Perks will actually re-engage here with full knowledge that Dan is in the side waiting for him, but Perks just knew he could get the extra little bit of harassment down before Dan left. He even had that warded as well, so he knew how safe he was.
There is nothing worse than or at least nothing more frustrating to lane against than a Yasuo player like Perks. So we'll see how Sayu can hang on to this mid lane. You can see he's already starting to take damage now that Perks has a couple of ranks in his abilities. Does have to be careful if he doesn't have Wind Wall though, because he will obviously take quite a bit of damage from this Twisted Fate if Perks can't get on top of him. But Dan, looking for the top lane, looking for Smitty J.
Yeah, he'll be using the Twisted Advance to get on top of the Rek'Sai. Has to burn the flash. They're not going to get the kill, but Binsu will look for the last rampage just to put a little bit more damage on top of him. Maybe set up for another round, but they already used the Ignite as well. Smitty J will be getting most of his health back with those potions that he bought at level 1. And Sayo just throwing out this mid wave as well. So mid lane is essentially equal for all intents and purposes. Top lane, maybe a slight advantage to Binsu now because of that gank, but he's a summoner down. So in terms of 1v1 kill pressure, not expecting it until post 6.
Yes, there is a long time before that impact is going to be felt, or at least a minute or so. So we'll have to keep our eyes open for that one, as that is going to be one of the key points of the game. Always that first Destiny is a big factor, because the early cooldown is so long that if you don't get anything from it, you just completely get neutralized on that utility. But that mid lane itself, in the 1 versus 1 matchup, is an interesting one, because Sayo when it comes to his laning prowess, he tends to be down fairly heavily in CS at that 10-minute mark. Tends to be down about 11 CS. Perks, on the other hand, just edges himself about a 2 CS lead to begin with. So we'll watch as it gets to 10 minutes, watch as it gets higher, but certainly we're on track for that with regards to Sayo being down 40 CS to 35 right now. Already feeling a little bit of that pressure from the Yasuo.
Yeah, maybe, but there is a minion wave resolving into the turret, so I think they're going to be pretty equal for now. That might open up over the next couple minutes for sure. Kikis was thinking about a gank in the top lane, but going through lane against the Hecarim, who's a turret, kind of difficult.
Yeah, and from that earlier gank that Smitty J had put on him from Dan, it means that there's a fairly significant CS lead up in that top lane, 45 CS to 25 right now. So Smitty J could do with a bit of help from Kikis, but I don't know what they can do if Hecarim sat further back in his lane and Elise has to come all the way into the lane to try and get the cocoon. It is a difficult ask for a gank up there.
For sure. In the bot lane, Jesse and Hybrid haven't spoken too much about the bot lane duos, but they've just been farming it out. Mountain and Cedrian have that slight CS advantage, 47 to 30, just ticking up to 40 there from Gamers 2. Somewhat to be expected maybe from the matchup, but yeah, as you had the melee Nautilus and the ranged Janna, but not the biggest difference in the world. Definitely not something to write home about just yet until we get later on to this game.
Yeah, and you know, looking at this Yasuo, it's not the only Yasuo we've actually seen in European Challenger Series. If you remember, Senkux actually played Yasuo back in one of the last few weeks of games. I believe it was in week 4, but Cedrian does get cut out by the hook.
Yeah, a lot of damage coming in from the Titan draft from Hybrid as he goes for that engage. Mountain returning with some auto attacks just to even up the score a little. Perks looks for the knockup, gets onto Sayo, but he's a little too close to tower, a little too close for comfort for Perks to go in for the engage.
Right, and you know, with the health bar being quite so healthy for Sayo, he's not really going to all-in him
and
quite this early on.
No, thank you.
Exactly, he has to get through the exhaust. He'll trade the first ult for the exhaust, and if he can get a flash from that, that will be very good for Perks. So the first time he goes in, he will not expect to kill unless Kikis is there with him. They should get summoners from it, but it's going to be the second ultimate that comes out of Perks that is likely to kill if it lands onto Sayo. But there's a lot of ifs and buts.
Yeah, it's annoying to gank Twisted Fate lane. He's so far back, he always has the stun card as well, and the vision control. He's got that ward on the top side, so he'll be hanging towards, and the bottom side in fact, so he's pretty much covered in terms of vision. So he's good to go. Second waves of buffs are starting to spawn, so the junglers will be heading there. Maybe more than thinking about these ganks, at least for the next 30 seconds or so. This has been a fairly quiet early game from both of these teams, Gamers 2 and MOU, but this is kind of what we've been seeing from the teams. They're fairly even in their games, up until around the 10-minute mark in most of their games.
Yeah, it really has been. And, you know, one thing that we want to kind of take a look at is we get out of the early game and start heading towards mid-game is exactly where the junglers have been going, what they've been doing. Is speaking of junglers, Kikis passes over the ward. I think he knows he's been spotted. That's a very nonchalant ward being put down in the middle of mid lane. But, you know, Kikis has opted for the Sheen first. A reminder, the Runeglaive was changed in this patch around 5.14. So it no longer gives the AoE effect if you hit minions or champions. It's now only on monsters, so it is less effective when it comes to actually outputting damage against multiple champions, and you know that kind of setup that we were seeing. That was a change made to reduce its effect on lanes, and in top lane, Smitty J's core.
Twisted Advance comes in with the Q as well. Binsu's Onslaught of Shadow should keep him in place. Gets the fear backwards into Dan for the first blood in top lane.
At this point, you know, that was the second time that Dan's gone for this gank path, and nobody from Gamers 2 really stopped it happening. At this point, there is a pink ward out from Gamers 2, but Dan just picked a better path into the lane. Got himself right in behind. Kikis was nowhere to be found, and that is a well-worked First Blood. SmittyJ does have his flash, but the crowd control distribution from MOUs was pretty good there when it came to actually balancing the fear, the knock-up, and the knockback coming from the Hecarim and the Rek'Sai.
Yeah, pretty well played in that scenario. 2,000 gold advantage over to MOUs in the early game. Not too bad of a start for them. 10 minutes into this game, yet to see a dragon. Kickus taking his blue buff here. Actually, well, doesn't need to donate it to Perks as he's not a mana user. Doesn't need the cooldowns as such in the mid lane just yet. Hybrid was roaming up to the mid lane, seeing what he could do in terms of vision, but it's all he was looking for now. And Kickus plays the game of battleships, and he's a winner.
I think people may be surprised looking at the Week 5 performances that MOUs are leading gamers too, but just in general, MOUs in 6 of their 10 games had a lead at 10 minutes. So you look at their performance against a team like Gamers 2, who only had it in 50% of their games. It's not too uncharacteristic for MOUs to be leading right now. However, compared to the impact that Kickers had against Team Dignitas at this point, that is where I think things become a little bit more surprising. Gamers 2 haven't come out of the gates firing, but this is a best of 3. This isn't a best of 1, so I wonder whether Gamers 2 are just kind of warming up to MOUs right now, because certainly Gamers 2 haven't made any plays.
Yeah.
They've just kind of been patient, looked for a gank very early on, didn't feel like going for it, and pulled themselves away.
Actually, a surprising difference from Kickus' playstyle out from Week 5. 91% up against 9%. That was actually Victor's win rate yesterday, before it was changed up by CosQ. Yeah. Gamers 2 first seed, of course. MOUs sitting in 4th, but MOUs currently with the gold lead in this game, as you mentioned, had the advantage at around 10 minutes in quite a few of their games, if not going even in a lot of them.
And MOUs are looking very solid. Look at the top lane CS difference, look at the AD carry CS difference as well. So this early game lead has not just been on Dan getting into lanes, it's stemmed from just decent laning performances as well. And okay, Sayo is down in lane, but until Sayo has his Sonya's Hourglass, until he starts utilizing his ultimate, his effect's not really going to be felt on the game anyway. So as long as he doesn't get too further behind, it should be okay. However, Yasuo roaming out of lane is going to be a very significant moment here, because Binsu is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Binsu will be using the Onslaught of Shadows to get away, and he's out home and dry, so he's not going to die here. The tower may fall. MOUs do pick up the first dragon of the game. MOUs typically are very good at picking up the first dragon. In 80% of their games, they usually get the first dragon, and they're just going to do that again this game as well. This, of course, was because of circumstance, but Kickers goes into the top lane, and while they'll trade the turret, this is pretty much MOUs' game plan.
So Binsu managed to use his ultimate, get out of the range of SmittyJ before he could throw down the smash into the ground with his Q to chain with the Yasuo ultimate coming from it. So at that point, that was a good escape by Binsu, and time spent out of lane by Perks. You can see now the CS gap has started to close a little bit between the two mid laners, but obviously there is going to be a wave that Perks can collect.
Yeah, I think Perks also taxed SmittyJ as he went up there as well.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the byproduct of zipping through the minions. You end up taxing, but you know, if it results in a kill, great. If it doesn't, then oops.
My bad. SmittyJ, even worse if he just queued the wave and then Yasuo just ease all the way through it. The worst. The actual worst. Anyway, mid lane, Perks has picked up the makings of his static shield, which will most likely go into that Zeal, of course. On the other side, Sayo looking towards the Zhonya's Hourglass would not be a bad pickup at all, considering the pick potential from Gamers 2, plus Perks being AD in the mid lane. A lot of bursts just in general from Gamers 2 will also put a stop to Hybrid's point-and-click CC. So I like the first pickup in from Sayo here.
It also gives Sayo the opportunity to look to get into the backline, very similar to how we see
the Messiah play.
Yeah, the Messiah play, exactly. You appear, if you can get a gold card off on like a Yasuo, if he's already used Windwall, great. You're probably not in such a rush to hit your Zhonya's Hourglass, but if you can just, light up one of the enemy carries with a gold card. However, he is against somewhat mobile carries. Yasuo, depending on minions, depending on enemies, can kind of zip himself away, put down the wind wall.
Yep.
Sivir is going to have the ability to run away and have a lot of peel. So, it may not be the easiest play in the world to make, but it's the play he's trying to go for. So, if it does work, MOUs will compound their lead even further. And their lead that they built up is a very well-worked lead right now. I'm actually quite impressed by MOUs in the onset of this game. I don't feel like we've seen this solid a performance in them without major team fights in a game yet. Really any of the games in the split.
Actually, I was querying the solo lanes a lot from MOUs compared to Gamers 2, a very early game-centric team. And MOUs here are just actually winning in most of their 1v1 lanes and even in the bot lane as well. So, yeah, stepping up in that regard. I want to see if the team fighting MOUs is still there as well, because if they are, and they convert this, if they convert the laning phase lead, then they could be in a really good position in this best of 3.
Well, there are aspects of these team fights that are more difficult than team fights they've looked for before. They've had very obvious engage tools when it comes to Galio looking at that top lane. It's not too different to have a Hecarim, but it relies a lot more on the flanking than we saw out of the Galio. Because Galio, we've heard Werlib talk about it from Giants when they played it. You just flash onto 2 people, and if you get them great, they're stuck there. The rest of your team follows up. Done. That's a one-team fight. Put it in the bank. Hecarim, you're going to rely on the flank coming through to get the ultimate, to get the fear, and set up the team fight from there. Gamers 2 going a little bit risky in that mid lane, looking for the turret without a really substantial minion wave, and MOUs do react in time. Both AD carries still down in the bottom lane though, or were before the recall, so no real tower pushing potential from either team just yet.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the point about the Hecarim, because you see a lot of non-professional Hecarim players just play it like an initiator, go in from the front, just charge in, and then get insta-pumped.
Yeah.
Because you're building Trinity Force first with the home guards. That's your core item build. You're not a tank. You're not a Galio. So if you go in from the front, you're going to die. Very quickly. So you are really looking for those flanks, especially with the TP.
And flanks and flank setups, as Mountain does get caught head on.
Just going through the front door on this one with Hybrid, gets the dredge line with the rest of the CC and the damage. The 5-man stack into the bottom lane. Smitty J gets the follow through with the twisted advance through the onslaught of the shadows from Beansu. It's not going to end up mattering, but it will get the bottom turret for Gamers 2. Nice response in the mid lane from MOUs, knowing that everyone is stacked in the bottom lane from Gamers 2. They'll get the first tower. Remember, this is a Twisted Fate versus Turret. Twisted Fate wins.
Well, he wins once you get a Lich Bane, but I don't think he can outrush 5 people, so it's going to be at a minimum an even trade for Gamers 2. They will be even, as it was to do with the minion wave that was in front of them. So at this point, MOUs managed to pick up probably the more important map control turrets on the map, but the actual gold trade is even overall. However, what this does make for MOUs is it makes things more difficult to secure subsequent dragons while the rest of the towers are still available on the bottom side for Gamers 2. It's now a lot harder for MOUs to ward around their blue buff and around the entrance to the dragon pit on the lower side of river. So it is an even trade financially, just applies slightly different map pressure overall.
Yeah, different map pressure is the key one there. Also for different stages in the game, but as Dragon is spawning, as you rightly pointed out, Gamers 2 are not going to be too unhappy with how that trade worked out. Sayo in the mid lane just trying to get a bit of his mana back. Nice win wall will actually keep some of these minions alive, and may even be enough to take this turret down, especially if the dredge line lands right onto the mid laner of Sayo into the last breath from Perks. Gets that kill down. Kickers will be using the Spiderlings to tank up this turret. This should be enough damage. It actually has the extra resistances now, there's no minions near, but they will eventually take it out. Again, MOUs do trade a tower in the bottom lane with Sejuan. This is pretty heads up from Mouse. Every single time Gamers 2 take an advantage, Mouse respond instantly.
Mouse are working very efficiently with lesser numbers.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting one, because they've been able to get this damage down onto turrets. Mid tower and bottom tower have taken damage already, so it's not surprising that they're able to take those turrets, but that bot outer tower falling means that even with the vision control here for Gamers 2, you can see one in the pit, one in the river. They can see what's going on, but G2 just do not feel like fighting for it. No teleports were available for either top laner, so they kind of have to respect the fact that the Hecarim was already in mid lane and Twisted Fate hadn't showed himself, so the numbers advantage was potentially in favor of MOUZ there. Gamers 2 just give away the turret, give away the dragon, and can't really take too much else for themselves.
Now, it's not the worst play in the world just to give it the first couple of dragons. Of course, you would like them, but as we've seen from yesterday, Dignitas giving up the first couple of dragons did ultimately not mean the end of the world for them. They had different objectives in mind and how they wanted to win the game.
There's a bit of a problem, though, for Gamers 2 right now, and that is 2 Trinity Force completed onto MOUZ. This is one of those big moments in the game where it's a very obvious signal from MOUZ that this is where they're going to look to group. This is where they're going to look to fight, because their items just are at the spike point. So, honestly, Gamers 2 need to try and avoid fights if the teleport is available for Binsu, which will be soon. And if they're in a dangerous position on the map, because now they've got to be careful there's no wards behind them, otherwise it's a very easy setup for the Hecarim.
It's actually a very difficult point in the game for Gamers 2 to do much of anything at the moment. They couldn't even go for the dragon there, even though they had the positioning as they took the middle turret.
Yeah.
Because Sayo and the globals. So this is just really well thought out by MOUZ. Essentially just stopping plays from Gamers 2 before they even happen, just via positioning.
However, there is something that I'm not so sold on the side of MOUZ. That is a black cleaver on Rek'Sai. I'm not 100% committed to
last time I saw
kind
that
of
was like Yoey Flash Wolves when the jungle was so fed. He was like, I'm going Tiamat, I'm going Black Cleaver.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to go all damage.
That was pre-MSI.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been done before, but the actual benefit from that slight extra damage that is going to come, and obviously the addition of the Black Cleaver just in general, does take away from the tankiness of the Rek'Sai. I can see why Dan is doing it. You can see just how well farmed Dan is right now. 117 CS means his gold income is substantial on top of that kill. So he feels like if he can get this extra damage, he could blow somebody out from Gamers 2. Kikis is not tanky at all right now. Smitty J only really has the Glacial Shroud and the Ninja Tabi right now to write home about. He doesn't have a completed item. He's sat on 3 different parts of different items. So damage will benefit MOUZ at this point in the game, but later we go into this game, if Dan gets caught out a couple of times here and there, neither Dan nor Binsu will be a full tank without a few more kills and a few more items complete.
So in terms of health, it's not horribly inefficient.
Right.
Because, if I'm not mistaken, it's 400 health, plus he's built the Synthhulk, so he's got extra health from there. Okay, he's not now buying resistances apart from the Merc Treads. This would make a lot more sense to me if he had like an AD mid and AD top and not a split hybrid bot lane AD carry, because then you're actually shredding armor, and the Queen's Wrath is very good at instantly getting up those stacks onto multiple targets with the AoE. But he has a Twisted Fate mid and a Corki who, yeah, he's going to shred, but he also does a lot in terms of magic damage.
What I will say about that is that if MOUZ don't close this game out, you know, kind of 30, 35, 40 minutes, then you're going to see the effect of the difference between the full tank jungle and then this kind of offset half damage, half tank jungle that Dan's going for. You can see Dan is pretty tanky right now, just compared to Gamers 2 right now. But later on, we'll definitely see a different effect. But this game is somewhat stalled right now, considering how the last 5 to 10 minutes has gone. But Gamers 2 are having none of that. They want to engage straight away into the mid lane, but They're not going to catch him.
Well, my name's Janna. Welcome to Disengage. Just use Talisman. Doesn't use anything else. That's literally just the Talisman, and that mitigated the On the Hunt ultimate from Jesse. So Mouse are pretty happy to play their game. Just going to clear out some waves. Going to allow Beansu to split push in the top lane. Take that turret. There we go. And that's even up the towers.
It makes slightly more sense now. Now that I'm reading the nameplate, seeing the champion, and looking at what Dan's doing. Dan loves to split push on Rek'Sai.
Oh, man.
Dan loves it. We've seen this in like 2 or 3 games. It's just clicked with me. Yeah. He wants that extra damage to sit in lane against somebody and just be able to push and never be forced away and clear the wave out a little bit longer, a little bit faster.
No, you're not wrong, Stress.
The problem is, this is a strategy with regards to split pushing on Dan that has been pretty 50-50. There have been times where his team has made random calls to start Baron that ended up going okay because of how far ahead MOUs were, but the split push in the bottom lane didn't help their cause. A better team facing MOUs would have exploited that kind of decision making. And that's what they're going to have to account for here against Gamers 2, because on a macro level, Gamers 2 last in week 5 looked very sharp with Kikis. We know that Kikis is shot calling for them, and certainly feels his shot calling is very strong, and it looked it against Tignitas.
But do you not feel this is like one of those moments where it's like, this is not the time to use that from Dan? Because they have Beansu, who has teleport, can split push. Sayo has a teleport, can split push. And he's Rek'Sai. Unless they want to stick the Twist of Fate in the middle for the 1-3-1 and use him to wave clear, but...
I mean, possibly. It's weird, because there are only 3 lanes, so you can't, like, 1-2-1-1. Just have somebody chilling
then
a
this
dragon.
would be perfect. But,
someone just waiting out, or one person's just constantly taking the enemy.
I think the biggest thing to take away from this is definitely if he's going to try to split push, can Gamers 2 punish it? Because if they don't, it's going to work. And they might respond by doing this, which would also work. Or not.
Well, they did realize Dan was on the bottom side of the map, so I like the actual attempt here. Ooh, flash hook doesn't quite hit. And Dan is still on the dragon, so he doesn't really have any tunnels out on the map to have crossed up on the top side. They were all on the bottom side of the map, but Gamers 2 did not feel like they were in a position to contest that. They were looking for the Baron, didn't end up going for it. Cedrian was on a ward.
Well,
oh dear.
I was trying to shot.
That's painful.
Yeah.
That's going to be the attempted Baron right now. I'm not committed into saying they're going to get this, because Dan is on the way.
Place down that ward, because remember we saw Kickers just wander into mid lane, place down that ward. I wonder if it's just him again placing down the ward. This time it actually worked out really well.
And this is one thing you can't overlook from Gamers 2. Their ability to pick is insane.
Oh yeah.
Maokai, Sivir, Elise, Nautilus. You step onto a warded area, you get caught.
You get CC'd. You're not getting out of that CC for a long time.
And that amount of hard engage makes it somewhat difficult for MOUs to look to set up any kind of 1-3-1 split push setup. Because if the other team can just engage on you and you're dead before anybody can teleport in, very tough to deal with. Gamers 2 don't really have a solid plan, so they're just going for the Baron once again. SmittyJ playing defender at the back of the pit. The team is starting to peel away from the Baron, though.
Well, SmittyJ gets the Twisted advance onto Sayo. Has also been exhausted as well, using a lot of resources for this Maokai. Beansu just wanders into the pit. He's going to take the extra damage from behind the Baron, but this is actually a fantastic contest from Mount. The flash forwards aggressively from Mountain, not entirely sure what it's used for, but he actually blasts away Kickers and Yasuo, so he can't get the smite down, and Mal's do finish off the Baron before they're able to get in range. Now everyone is scattered. Yasuo actually goes the way of the Wanderer and just goes in a different direction from Kickers. Beansu coming in from the side. He knows where Kickers is recalling. Almost takes him out with the venomous bite, but Perks is going to get caught out in the jungle. There's nowhere really for him to run. And it's a 3-0, plus the Baron going over to Mouse.
I don't know what Gamers 2 were doing with that Baron, because there were so many split decisions in that entire sequence.
Yep.
everything from the initial attempt at Baron. Here comes the ultimate out of Nautilus.
There's Azonia's.
He's still dead though, yeah. He is still
This
dead.
is what the item was used for.
Everything from the initial decision on Baron and then peeling off as Dan was on Dragon and then not actually doing anything. So they get the pick on Cedrian to open that up. Then D-Ward, look for another pick, go to Baron, back away, don't start the Baron, then start it again when Cedrian has actually respawned. Yeah. I'm gonna, use the quote that Crepo used on the LCS a good few weeks back. Baron calls like that are basically the sign of poor shot calling when it comes to it. Like, there seemed to be no clear decision made by anybody on Gamers 2 whether they were focusing the Baron, whether they were peeling back, whether they were looking to fight. Because Smitty J wanted to fight, Kickers wanted to do Baron, and the backline wanted to back away and just get the heck out of there.
Yeah, definitely not on the same page there, and this is a different Gamers 2 from what we were seeing in Week 5, and if anything, you would expect Gamers 2 to be sharper now than they were a couple of weeks ago when they've had time to prep. They hit the ground running, and now they've kind of plateaued.
And one of the things here is I want to attribute a lot of this to, in this game, MOUs have just been very solid. They haven't made a whole lot of mistakes. They have taken objectives when they can, traded objectives to be at least even when they can because of earlier setups, and they've found the right picks on the map. They've found the right engages that they've needed to. They've exploited any mistakes that Gamers 2 have made so far, and Gamers 2 are struggling right now. When it comes to actually finding their feet in this game, Gamers 2 are trying things, but it doesn't seem to be one clear voice right now.
It doesn't, and I actually want to focus in a little on Beansu, because we were talking about him before the game even started, and how, okay, he's had some good games, he's played some Gallios, he's played some Hecarims, but we've never really seen him turn up in a 1v1. Yes, he got help from Dan in this game, but he's really been doing a lot for his team this game, and he's starting to step up. I wonder if this is the true Beansu. This is Beansu's final form that we're seeing.
Certainly feels a lot more like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Hecarim is his best champion when it comes to statistics in the Challenger Series. He certainly feels like a more comfortable champion for him. It hasn't been a particularly high kill game at all, because Beansu has read most of the ganks that have come his way from Gamers 2. Dan assisted with 2 ganks onto Beansu, and that's about it. You've had a couple of picks here and there, nothing past that. It's all been about objective trading, and most of it has gone MOU's way. 4th Dragon's coming up in a minute. I don't think there's really anything that Gamers 2 can do to secure enough vision to consistently contest these dragons anymore. So Gamers 2 are in a really awkward spot right now. They have enough vision control around the jungle to look to set up a pick if somebody from MOU's is riskily warding. But MOU's have already got their wards set up. They've already got 2 deep pink wards. There is almost no reason for MOU's to go into the enemy jungle right now.
Looking at the item build as well from Gamers 2, you can see 2 Frozen Hearts being picked up, which is pretty core for Maokai, being picked up on these as well. But in terms of people who scale off attack speed really well, there's not a whole lot of that on MOU's, honestly. This is not an AD carry. This is more of a caster AD carry in terms of how he's going to dish out the damage on the Corki. Hecarim, of course, is going to get a lot of damage from the Rampage, and the Queen Draft and just knocking people up is Rek'Sai's game, so it's not super efficient in terms of that item.
Thus far, the Yasuo has had very minimal impact in this game when it comes to actually getting kills, getting into engages, because he's never found the opportunity outside of the couple of picks. However, take a look. Static Shiv, Infinity Edge completed on Yasuo, and is sitting on that elixir as well. So what MOU's can't do is underestimate the damage that Yasuo will do if Perks gets a multi-person knockup. This game is not over for Gamers 2 by any sense of the imagination, because one botched team fight from MOU's will turn this game on its head. but Gamers 2 are going to have to look to find it.
Okay, that is the 4th dragon of the game, but the hook onto Dan. Here comes the teleport in from the Hecarim as well. Hybrid's going to die before that even executes. He will be going down there. Perks as well gets called out. He's not going to land that perfect knock-up today. Fail flashes into the wall. Smitty J also cut off from the pack. And that's the last boomerang coming in from Jesse as he tries to get the hell out of dodge. Mid laner from Sion not able to connect the gold card as they retreat. A 3-0 plus the Dragon Mouse again just get ahead in this game.
That was certainly not a botched team fight coming out from Mouse. As that was very clean. They took the dragon and then Gamers 2 choose to fight. Fighting after the objective is always dangerous because as teleport comes in.
Welcome to Glowballs and welcome to Sayo actually getting nuked down before he can do anything else. Jesse should be falling here to Binsu and Dan. They're too tanky, they do too much damage for that duo lane, or the duo partnership of Kickers and Jesse to do much about it. The Tremor Sense will spot him out. The Repel over the wall is a good attempt, but Dan will respond with the knockup. Binsu gets CC down. Kickers is just delaying the inevitable at this point, trying to waste some more time. And that will be the 2nd kill picked up by Binsu.
I think Sayo forgot his Zonya's was still on cooldown.
I think so too.
I mean, that looked like a perfect play if Zonya's is up.
Yep.
So I guess it happens to the best of them. But certainly was a bit of a high-in-the-face moment for Sayo right there. But, you know, I want to go back to that dragon fight. Fighting after the dragon has gone down, and coincidentally, here we go. Now Maus only have 2 options, kite, back, or fight. And look at the team fight setup here already. They're not relying on getting through that wind wall. They can wait for it to drop and just kite back. Perks tries to go in. The Zonyas came out from Sayo, so just pretty much just stopped all of the damage that Perks wanted to deal. And from there, Mouse just kite back, reorder themselves into this fight. And then Gamers 2 can't do anything. With nothing to fight over, Mouse have a very easy decision to make while this far ahead.
Yeah, it was good decision making, and Gamers 2 have shown poor decision making in this game so far. 4 dragons now going over to Mouse means they're on the tipping point of getting Aspect in 5 to 4 minutes time. So I mean, this is not even a case of saying Gamers 2 needs to be more proactive. I mean, maybe in the early game, yes, but over the last couple of minutes, they've been contesting objectives, they've been making plays. They just haven't worked out because of either execution or the call itself being poor.
And I think a lot of this game was on, and this is going to sound a little bit weird, a lot of this game was on Perks' shoulders coming out of Champion Select, in the sense that they had to get Perks ahead. Now, Perks did nothing wrong. He just never could get ahead further than a couple of CS in lane because the warding was good from Mouse. They always had wards around mid lane, denied Kikis the ability to get into mid lane, and then if you can't snowball this lane, the Twisted Fate is going to have all kinds of fun using his ultimate, getting around the map, just farming up, just, you know, making sure he stays even or ahead. There's a big CS lead for Perks, don't get me wrong, he has been doing a good job in his own play, but it hasn't worked bringing it all together. And we know how big of a part Perks is of the Gamers 2 lineup. When he's been playing Jace, he was taking people down single-handedly, and single-handedly, Dan has just taken down an inhibitor turret.
The classic split push Dan Rek'Sai coming in here. Binsu as well onto a Kikis. Gets the onslaught of shadows, but just zones him away more than anything. His team wasn't really there to back him up to dish out the damage, so that's an ultimate down. I don't think it's going to matter too much in the long run. I mean, Baron is up, so that's at least one cooldown that Gamers 2 are going to know that Mouse do not have at their disposal. Perks is actually having a pretty difficult time dealing with Dash right now. He's very tanky. He has the Black Cleaver, so he actually does a fair bit of damage as well.
I mean, Dan, from all this time spent in the solo lane, I don't know when the last time I saw a jungler have 243 CS at 35 minutes into a game, and also be level 18 ahead of the enemy mid laner. That's kind of ridiculous, as is that damage. Now you see why the Black Cleaver, now I see why the Black Cleaver was built.
The light.
Do you know what, I'm going to go on record and say this was actually Dan's best game, this split.
I mean, I don't disagree.
From his gank path early, his decision-making thus far in the game, his dragon control, just everything has been on another level to what we have seen Dan provide for MOUs in previous games.
I mean, I'll be honest, we've seen a lot of experimentation from Dan over the split. He's played 8 different junglers in 10 games.
Yeah.
So if that's not experimentation, I don't know what is. So maybe he's just really just found what works, which is meta.
With a twist.
With a twist.
Don't forget
with
the twist.
Split push.
Just,
with the split push for XI, yeah.
I'm just pleasantly surprised by MOUs coming into this. I think so many people counted them out.
I mean, 91%.
This is game 1. There is still a potential to change in this, and certainly I would not want to count Gamers 2 out yet. But as you said, 91% of people thought Gamers 2 were going to take this game. I probably would have put myself in that group as well, thinking coming into it was likely to be the outcome. However, I am, as I said, pleasantly surprised by MOUs and their ability to just control Gamers 2 this entire game.
Part of me wants to say Gamers 2 are feeling out what MOUs can do in this game, but the other part of me is just like, they just haven't been doing very much in the early game, and this is nothing from what we've seen from the previous performances of Gamers 2.
Well, Gamers 2 are going to have to do something in about 30 seconds time, because Dragon number 5 is coming up, and if they don't somehow get a miracle fight or take the Baron for Dragon trade here, and then utilize the Baron more by avoiding team fights, which probably isn't going to happen considering you have an inhibitor down and Dan's going to go there and split push. I don't know how Gamers 2 can actually avoid fighting MOUs head on while they have the aspect.
I mean, it's going to be a colossal comeback if they can actually make this happen, but they have to go for this team fight. There's the on the hunt used. Sayo may be caught out here. He's going to be flashing away from the cocoon. That is not a good start for the fight for Gamers 2. Bear in mind the Beansu is in the top lane split pushing, so it is on Gamers 2 to make something happen. They may be able to deny this Dragon. This is going to be a 4 versus 5 as Smitty J comes in, but the teleport now coming out from Beansu. This is going to be a full-blown fight in from Mal. Sayo just get caught out. There is Perks turning up and picking up the kill, but it's only on to one target, and they have the return damage onto the bot lane from Jesse and Hybrid. Now Beansu's into the mix, but he just doesn't have enough tankiness to sit through all of the damage out from Mal's. Even without Sayo on the table, they are able to chew through Gamers 2. That's the triple kill coming in for Cedrian. And the 5-for-1, this should be the end of the game if they can push into that bottom inhibitor.
This is going to be the end of the game. Beansu is just too tanky right now for anything really to come about this. Still 30 seconds on the death timers for the most of Gamers 2. Very convincing performance out by MOUs. Almost night and day from some of the games we saw.
It's impressive.
You know, we said that, you know, they struggled against teams above them. They have not struggled here in Game 1 against Gamers 2.
Yeah, exceptional game in from MOUs here, up against Gamers 2 in the first game of their semi-finals, but they'll be taking this one home as the Nexus falls down. MOUs finish off this game in 39 minutes.